There are these shows on TV about houses, like buying a house, finding your dream house, fixing up your house, building a house. There's a whole industry of like house shows. Maybe you know about it. I'm not really into it, but I know enough about it. So I looked up some of them. There's Fixer to Fabulous. Anybody seen this one? A couple of hands. Okay, I've never heard of this, but apparently they take a fixer-upper and they turn it into fabulous, as the title says. Renovation Impossible. That sounds intense. Anybody seen this one? Sounds super. Nobody's seen this one. None of the other services either. Maybe a couple of hands going up. This one might be on the chopping block then, if nobody's heard of it. Just a straw poll. Ratings are not good for Renovation Impossible. Fixer-upper. Okay, even I know this one. Okay, this is maybe sort of the godfather of a lot of these shows. Is it Chip and Joanna Gaines, I think? They're like in Target and everything. They're doing just fine. There's House Hunters and kind of a real estate show. They take you around and you get a few options, and at the end you got to choose something, your dream house, but it has to be within your budget. And then I hadn't heard of this one, My Lottery Dream Home. And you guys don't really need that because I'm sure you're all in your dream house right now. So, but some people don't have their dream home, so you watch this show, My Lottery Dream Home. And in every episode, again, I'm not deep into this, but I've seen enough that I know that they kind of all have the same formula. You get somebody who's just, they want their dream house, and either you fix it or you build it or you find it, but it's all kind of the same premise. You walk in and people are like, ooh, I like this, I don't like this, yes, maybe, absolutely not, and you're kind of intrigued, like what are they going to pick and what do they like, and it's kind of all their choice, and they're trying to decide how do I find my dream house? How do I get my dream home? Anybody want to admit that they're like a house show junkie? Anybody? No, barely anybody. There's a few hands. We'll confess our sins later in the service. Jesus is so profound that it's hard to find language to describe him. There just aren't the words to communicate who he is and what he does. He's just so profound. So Jesus uses metaphor and parable all the time. He speaks in metaphor or parable because it's the only way we can begin to wrap our minds around the depth of who he is. And I was thinking about the metaphors and parables he uses, and it struck me that of all of the metaphors and parables, he doesn't really use construction or building. The closest I could think of was build your house upon the rock. But that's really not about us constructing. It's more about the rock, the foundation. Really, he does not use the construction or building metaphor. He uses agriculture. That's the dominant metaphor that he uses in most of his parables. Why, I wondered? Why is it agriculture and not construction? Well, construction, you're in charge, you're in control. You get to build your lottery dream home. It's exciting, it's fun. It's a custom build. You get to choose the bathroom here, the countertops are like this, the paint colors are this and that. You're in control. It's construction. You get to build, you get to design, you get to choose. Agriculture is different. Seed, soil, weather. In agriculture, you realize if you've gardened or if you've farmed before, you realize that there is a force outside of your control that you can't manage, can't manipulate. Now, you can cultivate it, but you can't control it. You can weed and water, but you can't demand. Some of you grow tomatoes. Sometimes you do everything just right. You do it perfectly, and those tomato plants don't produce anything that year. And sometimes you just kind of fumble along, and you're like, well, I don't have a lot of time, but I'll just see what happens, and it does it by itself, and you have a great year. You can't control it. Sometimes it's just beyond you. You can't control. That's agriculture instead of construction. There is something to the metaphor of agriculture, of growth, seed, soil, weather. But life in our world is really more like construction. A high value in our society is self-realization. You get to choose personal freedom. a custom build, your lottery dream life. You get to decide. Construct it, build it, make yourself what you want. And that's the dominant thought in our culture, society. So there's a lot of pressure on us to construct just right. What kind of life will you build? Will you get it right? How do we do this? Well, if I just find the right partner, the right spouse, then I'll construct my life perfectly. If I have the right job that makes the right amount of money, or if my kids go to the right school and make the right team, then I'll have my lottery dream life. Or if I just am a good person, if I'm funny and people like me, if I have respect, admiration, if I achieve enough, if I retire with this level, then it'll be good. I'll be happy. My lottery dream life. And that's the system we live in our world. You have to construct it yourself. It's on you. You have to decide. You make it, you build it, you design it. There's a lot of pressure when it's on you to design. On HGTV, they find and fix the perfect dream house. In our world, there's pressure on you to design, fix, build your perfect dream life. But Jesus doesn't really use construction metaphors. He uses agriculture. Like our verse of the week. You've read it through a couple of times. Hear it again today. If you join with me, John 15:5. I am the vine, and you are the branches. Whoever abides in me, and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Sometimes I kind of source material from kids. How does the text hit you? And so I asked a 9-year-old this week, hey, what does this mean, this vine and branches thing? He's like, it means that the vine gives us life and love, and we receive it. I'm like, oh, that's good. You preach. You're on this weekend. Get up there. You get it. You see it. This is why Jesus uses metaphor, because you can see it. The vine is a source. It's where the nutrients come up through the water, the life, and the branch just receives it. The branch isn't rooted down in the ground. The branch doesn't make it up. The branch doesn't connect itself. It all comes from the vine. There's a flow, a directional flow from the vine to the branch, and the branch just kind of receives, takes what it's given. And that's the image that Jesus has given of us, of himself. We're trying so hard to construct and build, and Jesus says, no, you're already in life. You're connected to me. Just stay with me. I've already connected you. I've already given everything to you. Just abide in me. Apart from me, you can do nothing. A branch cut off, it just dies. You get flowers from the flower shop, you put them in a vase, they live for a little while, they die because they're cut off. They're not connected. Jesus said, you're connected. I'm the source. Apart from me, you can do nothing. The vine metaphor means that we have a given God, that it starts with him, and it flows in that direction. It starts with him. He's the source, and he gives to you. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to construct it perfectly for it to happen. It just happens. God does it. He accepts you. He takes you as you are, where you are. He just gives, like a vine to a branch. He just gives. I was on a plane to Portland this last summer, and I got in the exit row with the extra legroom. Sometimes I walk by that, and there's like a person who's 5 feet tall sitting there, and I'm like, you're not allowed to. That's my seat. You're sitting in my seat. Well, this time I got the exit row, and I was sitting next to a guy named Spencer, who too was tall. He deserved to be there. And Spencer was from Portland. And so we were just talking, and he was telling me all about Portland. I actually wasn't going to Portland. I was going through Portland south, but he told me every restaurant I needed to go to, all the things I needed to see in his town. And then he asked me the question that I always dread. What do you do? Because if I say, as soon as I say pastor, the conversation changes or it shuts down. but I can't lie. So I told him, but he didn't shut me down. Spencer just kept talking, and he said, I really have never had a connection to Christianity. He's a young guy. He's from Portland, so never really had a connection to the church. And he said, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And then he asked, what religion are you? And I thought, he will have no idea what Lutheran means, so I can't say that. So I said, oh, I'm part of the radical reformers of the church. And he thought he's like, cool, that's really cool. Tell me more. Yeah, I'm part of the radical reformers of the church. We believe, like, Jesus didn't come to tell us how to earn brownie points before God so that he'll accept us. Jesus came right to us as we are for who we are, and he said, I have come to seek and save the lost. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, it's the sick. I've come to save not the righteous, but the sinners. They need the grace of God in Jesus Christ. That's the heart of the gospel. So I said, I'm part of the radical reformers. We believe in this radical thing called grace, that you can't earn it or deserve it, that God has to do something apart from you, outside of you. And there really is no religion in the world that actually believes that. Every other religion in the world, and sometimes some Christians, believe that there are like a level of things you have to do, you have to attain first, that you have to kind of construct a certain life, that you have to do something to get the gods to like you. And then if you follow the right way, if you just construct and build it the correct way, then you'll be fine. Then you'll be blessed by the divine or whatever. But Christianity is the only one where it comes from outside of you. There's a source beyond you. There's a source in spite of you, in spite of what you can do and build. Sometimes we build the wrong things. And even in spite of that, God still takes us in Jesus Christ. The blood of the cross is still good for us. His sacrificial love at the cross is still for us, even when we step on him, even when we're shameful, sinful. It's a vine to a branch. It's by grace. On Reformation, we're reminded of Martin Luther. Some of Martin Luther's final words near the end of his life, he said, we're all beggars. We are all beggars, which isn't a great slogan for a faith, but it's true. It was the summary of his theology. We're all beggars. We come with nothing. Before God, we come with nothing but empty hands. And we receive. Like a vine to a branch just receives what the vine gives. So in the Christian life, it's the posture of Christianity. We're beggars. God, I got nothing. I'm empty. I just got my hands open to receive. So this is the posture of the Christian life. It is one of receiving and responding. We receive and then we respond, but it's in that order. It's not respond so that you can receive. It's not like trick or treat, like I got only in St. Louis, you got to tell a joke and then you get candy. It's not the way Christianity works. It's receive and then respond. It's the vine, the source of life, of forgiveness, of salvation, to the branch, and then a response. And Jesus talks about a response. He extends the metaphor. I am the vine, you are the branches, but it doesn't stop there. The branch just doesn't sit around and watch HGTV all day. There's something to do. Well, what do? Well, you don't do it to get connected to the vine. You do it because it's an outcome of being connected to the vine. You do what branches do. Branches produce fruit. It's just what you do. If they don't, you prune them, you cut them off. Or a tomato plant. If the tomato's not growing, you just kind of trim it. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Vine, branch, fruit. The question is, okay, what is the fruit? What fruit does Jesus want us to produce? Well, in the metaphor, he goes on. He gets done talking about the vine and the branches, and then he gets to the specific. What fruit does he want? He talks about bearing the fruit of his commandment. Well, what is his commandment? What does that mean? He gets more specific. This is John 15, 12, and 13. If you'd read this with me. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Receive and respond. The love given to you is the love you give away. What you receive is the very thing that you respond with. He said it, this is my command, that you love one another, but it's not like you started it yourself. You didn't self-construct it, self-design it. It's the love that you have first been given, that you love as I have loved you. Sounds simple. It's really profound because we know how he loved us. To lay down his life even to love us. To bleed and suffer. It's that kind of love. That's how he loved us, with sacrifice. And now you have received that. You are in the vine. And now that's the fruit you produce because it's already in you. You love as he has loved you. And just remember, again, the selfless side of it, the sacrificial. It's hard to love like that. And you can only do it because you're connected to a source. Receive and respond. It's the rhythm of the Christian life. It's not a one-time event. It's just the rhythm. It's the state of affairs. Receive and respond. Love received, love given away. On Monday, we experienced a tragedy in our town that we'd hoped never to experience. After a while, you lose track of violent crime or shootings, mass shootings. You just lose track because it's too much. But when it happens in your own town, then it hits you in a different way. And I know for many of you, this last week, it has hit you. We had people affected. We had a young woman in the building at the time, and we thank God she's safe. We've had kids who didn't want to go to school on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. We've spent time counseling or confirmation on Wednesday night. It was conversation. We've had teachers talking to educators who aren't sure if they want to do this, if they can do this anymore. There's a darkness in our world, and we all know it. But sometimes something happens and you realize the darkness is closer than you thought and it's worse than you thought. And just to be clear, the darkness isn't just out there, the darkness is also in here. There's a lot of work we have to do, of course. And there's a time and a place to talk about mental health, to talk about safety and security, to talk about gun laws. There's a time and a place to talk about that. We need to do everything we can to beat back the darkness. But there's something deeper than that. And those of us who are of faith, we know that there's something under it that's just beyond the headlines or the surface. And the something deeper is a soul sickness. We know how to treat the body. We can identify that. We try to treat the mind. But what do you do when the soul is sick? There is no profession, there's no science that knows that. And we believe we are created, body, mind, and soul. That makes us different than any other creature in the world. We have souls. So what do you do when the soul is sick? There's a soul malady. The only remedy is the one who said, I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I am the source of something you can't get anywhere else, he says. I am the nutrients, the life that you cannot construct on your own. It's the same one who said, I am the good shepherd. I know my own know me. I lay down my life for the sheep. The remedy is the same one who said, I am the light of the world, the light no darkness can overcome. The only one that can treat the soul sickness. And that's what we need in our world. We have been tempted to construct and build our way out of every problem. And while there's things we can do, we're also weary because we've constructed things that still aren't the right answer, that aren't the remedy. Jesus said, I am the vine. You are the branches. Receive, respond. We say, God, have mercy. Open hands. And then we respond with the same thing we receive. We live in a world that is desperate for the gospel. Your friends, your neighbors, your community are desperate for Jesus, and that Jesus is in you. He said it, I am the vine, you are the branch. We're interconnected now. You're connected to the living Son of God. And so when we live in a world of darkness, desperate for some good news, they're going to find it in you because you are connected to the vine, to the source, and you bear fruit that comes from Him. Receive and respond. Receive. God, I got nothing. Open hands. I need only what you give. You are my source. Respond. I'm going to love as you have loved me. I've seen it in you. I'm going to do it as you have done for me. Receive and respond and receive and respond. The world is desperate for what we have. You have received it, and so we respond. Amen.